Leaders are not born in a womb. They are forged through heat, pressure, and a whole lot of sweat. The Fire Forged Leader podcast serves the audience through exploring leadership at work, in the community, and with the family, using a practical perspective and real-life experiences from the host, Steve Baumgartner, and his guests in The Forge. Now, it's time to enter the Forge with the Fire Forged Leader.
Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Fire Forged Leader Circus. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sit back, relax, and enjoy as you watch the greatest show on earth. So we all love the circus, or do we? So what is up, leaders? This is Steve Baumgartner, the Fire Forge Leader, and I would like to welcome you back to some real talk about lessons learned here in the Forges of Leadership. So before I get started, I wanted to get a little bit of business out of the way. If you are gaining value from this podcast, I really do ask you that you do me a solid and share the hell out of this thing. It's really started taking off here as of late, but I don't want to see it go back down either. I know it's providing value to you because you're coming back each and every week. So what I ask you to do is really, I'm not asking for any money or anything like that, but what I am asking for is that you share, subscribe, give this thing a rating and a review. And all these things really help this podcast to gain more traction. It grows it in the charts and ultimately reaches more listeners. So I want to give you one example of the latest review given, and this happens to be on Apple Podcast. And the author of this review probably took less than a minute to write it. But imagine you as someone who's looking for a new podcast to listen to, how truly awesome this would be to read this and how much you'd want to go ahead and subscribe to this podcast if you read this review. So the review starts, the title just says, freaking awesome. And then it goes on to say, Steve is always dishing out real tangible advice on how to be an effective leader. He has great guests that deliver insightful strategies to improve your leadership skills. You do not want to miss an episode. Can you imagine if you hadn't listened to this podcast, you see the artwork, you read that review, and how much of an impact it might make on whether you subscribe to it or not? Anyways, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get into the show. So I had a little bit of a dramatic entrance for this one. I did that on purpose, right? I want to bring your mind to the circus for a minute, right? And the question that I left you with is, really, do we love the circus? Now, if we're talking about Barnum and Bailey, of course we love the circus. We love all the chaos and commotion and the 3 different rings and all this stuff going on, jugglers, animals, you name it, clowns, and it's out there. However, there's the other things in life that we refer to as a circus. And that's really what I'm talking about. So I want to bring you to just a personal event that I've had recently. We had a big tour come into my workplace. And the first instinct of everybody involved is, and including myself, I'm not going to leave myself out of that. I was probably the biggest instigator. But our instinct is really to turn it into this 3-ring circus, right? We're going to paint, we're going to hang up some wall hangings, we're going to take things down, we're going to replace ceiling tiles, we're going to make sure all the light bulbs work, replace those, and anything else that you could possibly think of for what ends up being less than a half a day visit, right? And today I just kind of chuckle about that, right? I just got a little humor out of it, I guess. Um, and like I said, I got caught up in it, and it is what it is. But I laugh because it's in the past now, right? I mean, going into these things, they bring you a lot of stress and, just kind of anxiety around them, right? But then I stop and I think, after I give it a little bit of a chuckle, on really how foolish it is that I acted this way, right? And, I'm going to explain that throughout the entire episode. But I really stopped to think about how foolish this behavior really is. So then I started thinking about it, on my drive home from my W-2 today. I was thinking about this behavior and my mind started working. I started thinking about it and started wondering how many different places in our life do we really act like this? So let's talk about when people are dating. And I'm not just talking about, the first time, blind dates, something off from social media, whatever. I'm talking about any sort of dating. It could be with your wife, your girlfriend, the first time you meet someone, whatever. What do we do in those situations, right? Well, a lot of people, they strip out of their sweat clothes. They get in the shower, soap up real good, They trade out their sweatpants and sweatshirt for a nice pair of slacks, button-up shirt. They remove their hat, they comb their hair, they shave, they get to the date, they sit up straight, they act proper, and they're really, really attentive to that person that's sitting across the table from them at dinner, right? Now, we all know what that's like, whether you're single dating or whether you're taking your wife out to dinner. And the question, once again, is why? Why do we do that? Why are we trying to be something that we're not for that one event, for that portion of the evening, right? And really, we do it and then we just go back home and we become that same guy sitting on the couch, popping popcorn in our mouth, dropping it all over the front of our concert t-shirt that should have been thrown out a decade ago while we're watching TV. And like a lot of marriages, we just sit there and ignore our spouse anyways. Ooh, but we got to prep up for that date, right? So another one that gets me is when I hear parents talking about going to their parent-teacher conferences at their children's school. They go in there, they talk to the teacher. The teacher tells them, well, little Johnny, I don't know where he's getting it from, but he's sure cussing up a storm and he's been getting in a lot of trouble for that. I see him out on the playground and he's cussing at other kids. The other kids are coming back in cussing and, so on and so forth. And it's just getting to be a really big problem, mom and dad. And these parents are like, oh, I don't know where they're getting that from. I don't know where little Johnny's learning all that cussing from. We don't do that. That's not something that we allow at the house. And, the funny thing is, generally most of the time, is that no, they don't allow that at the house for little Johnny. However, when they're telling me the story, they're talking about it in terms that would make Samuel L. Jackson blush. Come on, man. What do you think your kids are going to pick up? Or how about when you have company coming over to your house, right? I know a lot of people who stress themselves out trying to spit shine their entire place. They're down there, they're scrubbing toilets, they're cleaning windows, they're polishing the floors on their hands and knees. They go around making all the beds in the house. And you're like, what? You haven't made that bed since 1983. And now that you got an old friend coming from high school and that's just passing through you haven't seen for 20 years, you go all Mary Poppins like? Come on. So here's the overall question, right? And it's a simple one with a complex answer. Question is, once again, why? Why do we put on this circus sideshow for other people who don't, I don't want to say that they don't matter, but they shouldn't be our priority. Don't our employees deserve that new paint job and a nice place to work every single day? Don't the people that we're married to or are in a relationship deserve the very best us each and every day? How about our kids? Why do they get in trouble for our poor behaviors? Why don't our families get to enjoy a nice, clean house every day? Why do we elevate company who doesn't come by that often higher than our own children, spouses, and, the people that just live in the house? Why is that company more important than the people who are there every day? And really, it comes down to we as humans have our priorities entirely out of whack. And I think a lot of it just simply is because we become too complacent with the people who are closest to us, right? We get too comfortable with the ones that are closest, whether it's our employees, our coworkers, or our family. And I think we do that because it's really just, they'll put up with more, right? If you have company come over and they go into a house that's a pigsty, they'll probably turn around and go out to the hotel. But our family keeps on coming back because there's those bonds there. And we take those for granted, right? So we get complacent because we take those relationships for granted. And we do the same in the workplace too, right? I mean, I know, for me in particular, that if my boss travels in to come see me and he points out something, I will have it taken care of that day. Now, I'd like to say if an employee points it out that I would take care of it quicker, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we get busy. Sometimes we've heard about it a couple times, whatever. But we don't take care of it with the same urgency, but we need to. So let's talk about breaking that complacency cycle and how we actually do that. And I got about a 4-step process here that I think you'll take away a little bit from. Excuse me. So number 1, first we need a good level of understanding of ourselves as leaders. And that understanding, I believe, is that as leaders, one of the most important parts of our mission is simply to improve the lives of people entrusted to our care. All right, and I bring that point up because I don't think we focus on that that's part of the mission, right? But it should be. It should be our mission to improve the lives of the people entrusted to our care. So our employees, our coworkers, our spouses, our children, whoever it is, if they've been entrusted to our care, it should be our mission to in some way, shape, or form to improve their lives. Number 2, once we have that understanding of that part of the mission, we really need to evaluate our priorities. Do the people who are entrusted to our care, our employees, our families, do we really see them as our priority? Are we focused on the people that truly matter? Yes, I get it. Your boss matters too. But let's not forget, at work, we go to work to sustain our lives. We don't have our lives to sustain our work. So we need to really just check our priorities, right? Bringing us to point number 3. We need to have an internal focus, right? So what I mean by that is not really just ourselves, but we need to focus on what daily is going to be the best for ourselves, for our families, for our community, or the people that we work with, whether they're coworkers or our employees. And then the fourth bullet point that I have is really just be consistent, right? Don't go up and down. Don't go feast or famine. Don't slap a whole bunch of paint on the building all the way through in one weekend and call it done for 10 years. Keep moving forward day after day after day, right? It's all the small steps forward that build up to greater successes and simply build a good culture. So just to kind of recap those 4 things again, we start with a level of understanding, and that understanding is part of our mission needs to be to improve the lives of the people entrusted to our care. Secondly, once that we understand that, we need to check our priorities. Are we focused on the people that really matter day in and day out? Once we check our priorities, we need to focus more internally. Focus on ourselves, our family, our community, and all the people that we work with, right? That tight knit of people that have been entrusted to our care. And then last but not least, we need to drive consistency. We need to take those small steps every day consistently to improve our conditions, improve the conditions for ourselves, our family, our community, and the people that we work with. It doesn't need to be grand gestures. So at the end of these 4 things, right, we're doing things for the right reason at that point. We eliminate the circus. We strengthen our culture. And really, if we focus on those 4 things, when you have those visitors, right? Whether it's a group tour coming through your workplace, whether you're going out on a date, yeah, you might still spiff up a little bit, but you're not a different person. You're really doing it for the restaurant you go to. Or when you're having company over, right? Things are just in their place. And you're always battle ready. You're always tour ready, as we say out in the workplace. You know, we need to be tour ready every day. And when you do these 4 points, you're always prepared. You're always tour ready. So once again, I think there's some pretty good takeaways from this circus atmosphere, right? It doesn't need to be a circus. It just needs to be everyday life. Let's eliminate that circus. Let's put these 4 bullets into use each and every day. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end it today. And I'm going to end it with the call to action, of course. If you appreciate what you learned here today, what you heard here today, learned here today, I really invite you to leave a rating and review and push that subscribe button. And it doesn't matter on whatever podcasting app you're listening to this on. Go ahead and do it there. It just helps us boost up on that platform. And once again, join us in the Forge next week. We're going to keep on having these powerful conversations, both by myself as well as guests that'll be on. And I hope just to keep on getting more and more impactful over time. But anyways, I'm going to leave you there. This is Steve Baumgartner with Fire Forge Leader Podcast. Keep on tuning in each and every week, and we'll keep on bringing great content.
You have just experienced the heat and pressure of the Forge. Remember, words without action are meaningless. Now, after the heat of the Forge, shape your thoughts, quench your brain, then put your new tools to use, adding to your leadership. Tune in next week for more lessons from the Forge.